your own recording
Yep.
um, for yourself.
Perfect.
So the last time that we talked was in 2020, and
Yep.
it was very fresh. Dylan had just gone missing.
You
Can
did.
you catch me up on what's been going on since then?
Oh boy, there's a whole lot of stuff. So, what was the last thing you guys heard about? Try to find out where we're at here.
Yeah, so
So,
the last that we heard, um, there Dylan had gone missing in his grandmother's yard, and
yep.
there was a search in the brook near the house, and some rubber boots had floated up. There was an issue with the Truro police not really investigating the way that they probably should have,
Okay.
and there were some searches going on, and that was the last I've heard.
Oh, there's a lot. So we'll start with where do I start? So I guess we'll start with cyberbullying. Um, ever since you went missing, we had Canada's biggest cyberbullying. And destroyed a lot of lives. Most of my family members, friends, to the point where they didn't want to support no more because they were scared to. And it's still happening today. So, for an example, if I post a friend on Facebook, girlfriend, or anything like that, they'll call CPS on them. Any supporter of Dylan's will call CPS on them just to give them a headache, um, or they'll slander them to the point where they'll push away, and they'll push away from Dylan. So I lose a lot of supporters that way. Why they do it, we don't know. I don't know if you're familiar with Please Bring Me Home, missing children's or missing persons organization. So they're trying to get on global news right now and represent me to talk about the ongoing issues with the cyberbullying. And hopefully I get on there soon and maybe we can bite it in the butt soon. It's, uh,
So, what kind of
uh,
cyberbullying are you thinking of? Is it within Facebook groups?
it's Facebook groups. It's the same people from 4 years ago. It's obsessive. It's to the point where it's sickly obsessive. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter how I do it. Like, let's say I try to do things to Dylan. It's quick to, oh, I'm using my son for money. Don't support Jason. Um, another example would be this May 6th is the anniversary. I couldn't do anything for him because we had this big plan on doing a bunch of things, and we started to get messages saying that people were going to come and harass us, or they were going to come and laugh at us, or they were going to, so it didn't work out. We tried a 50-50 draw to help with May 6th to pay for some of the stuff that we needed. That got destroyed. Recall they were trying to say that we're ripping people off to the point where we sent everybody's money back. We're like, no, we can't do this. Uh, it's pretty well the same as it's always been like when he first went missing. It hasn't really changed much. Um, it's obsessive. There's really no words for it. It eats you up, breaks your heart, and it puts a really big mental toll on your brain. Who you can trust or who's using you. It's to the point where I'm scared to support my own son on social media, so I don't really use social media no more. Um, that's the cyberbullying part. It really hasn't changed much. Um, what else? We'll go to Dylan. We had the police complaint hearing. We paid a lot of money for a lawyer, and we fought them in court. And doing so, we found out a lot of lies, a lot of negligence. But they covered it all up. So what I mean by that is there was a hit in the water with the Nova Scotia Canine Search and Rescue with their cadaver dog, human remains dog. And so they, at the hearing, they tried to say it was a different dog handler. For an example, they said it was Kathy and Rifle, Rifle being the cadaver dog, Kathy being the dog handler. And it wasn't Rifle or Kathy. So they lied about that because I believe that they would have gotten a lot of trouble, so they covered it up. I remember at the hearing, I remember Chief McNeil, he was getting cross-examined and examined. So how that works is the trail police lawyer would ask him a bunch of questions about Dylan and what happened that day. And then the cross-examination would be my lawyer questioning him. So that day, I remember head of Colchester Search and Rescue, Tom Fitzpatrick, I think his name is. He was head of the search on the day he went missing for the 6 days. So I remember he did his statements, and then he lied about the dog, said he wasn't there or something like that, but he was. I have videos of it. I have video proof, right? I just didn't submit all the video proof. That's what screwed me. And so after he was done, they questioned the chief, and then after they talked to the chief and all that, we went on a break. And on the break, I remember some of my friends and that were out in the lobby, and what happened? Tom Fitzpatrick came out of the room where we were doing the hearing, and he comes up to me and he's like, "I lost all respect of the chief." First time hearing that story,
Jason, I think you
and right
broke
away I'm
up
like,
and I
What
can't.
do you mean? I mean,
Your
we already knew
your
some
face
things weren't
froze and
making
I can't
sense, but
hear you.
when you hear it from a professional, it's like, it's a hit to the heart.
Oh, there you
So
go.
he's like,
You froze up
yeah,
on me, Jason. So I couldn't hear,
oh,
like, can you start over? Your face froze and I
yeah.
didn't even hear your voice.
So Tom Fitzpatrick, after how far did you hear? The chief did his testimony, and then um, Tom Fitzpatrick, which is head of Colchester Search and Rescue at the time, he come out of the lobby and he said it right in front of me and my lawyer. He's like, I lost all respect of the chief. First time hearing that story, um, the chief's testimony, and he's like, good luck. I won't be back. He did his testimony, and that's all he was there for. And then where my lawyer heard it, it's off the record, so there's nothing they can do about it. So the next day, the chief was cross-examining by my lawyer the next day, and Tom Fitzpatrick actually came back to listen. He came in, he's like, hey, Jason, I said I wasn't going to be back, but I just have to finish the chief's testimony. I have to. So then they finished, we went on another break, and that's where he came out and said, you should have had more respect of the deputy chief, Rob Hearn. He's like, because he lost all respect of the chief too, and he's retiring after this hearing of your son. And no word of a lie, within 2 weeks, Rob Hearn retired. And that was also off the record. So, like my lawyer said, anything off the record like that, there's nothing you can do about it. So it's new evidence. It's not submitted. There's just nothing you can do. So through the hearing, me and my family learned that people were losing respect of the chief, like even cops, the deputy chief. And so I guess the end of the hearing, we had to wait a couple of months for their decision. And with all the evidence we provided and everything, I guess the Truro police did everything proper. They said the only thing they did wrong was communication with me. They could have had better communication, but everything else was they did everything proper. but they didn't do everything proper because why would people be losing respect of the chief if everything was done proper? So then we had an opportunity to appeal the decision, and we had 30 days to appeal. They gave us a letter, 30 days. And then I found out that another lawyer would have been another 6 grand. So it was impossible for me to fight it. So um, there was not much I could really do about that, other than I have to live with what I was told by professionals after the hearing. And it wasn't just me that heard it, right? Other family members heard it, right? I can't even make this stuff up that the deputy chief retired after my son's hearing. And I do believe that it's because they put all the blame on the deputy chief. Um, I remember bits and pieces. The Twitter that went out on when my son went missing. They have no idea who tweeted that. It wasn't even the cops, and I still don't know who tweeted it because they didn't put public. They didn't, as W5 said, they didn't put out any social media of Dylan on the day he went missing.
So
But they said they did.
what was this tweet that you're talking about? I don't know too much about that.
So when my son went missing, they didn't put out the alert. Well, they put out a non-intrusive alert 3.5 hours after his disappearance. And in W5 News with Avery Haynes, she states that, or sorry, the chief states that he put out. I'll get to the tweet. So he says that he put out Dylan's picture and information all over Facebook, the Truro web page, the Truro Police web page, Twitter, all these things, right? And Avery Haynes, which is a very well known for W5 News, comes back with they didn't actually do any of that, but they said they did. They didn't put out any information on Dylan the day he went missing. Nothing. So that was his first lie, and that's when I started realizing more issues and more issues. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Did you watch W5 News?
No. So I didn't. So going back to what you were talking about with a court case, this court case came about because you and mom of Dylan, did you sue the Truro Police Department? And that's why this court case came about?
No, I made a complaint with the Truro
Okay.
Police against the chief, and that's what. And then I think a year and a half, 2 years later, I finally had my opportunity to fight them with a lawyer. So we did that, and it was just a big waste of time because they lied through everything. There was a point where my lawyer even said that Tom Fitzpatrick's being prepped, and that's not good, being prepped to lie. I have a hour and 30-minute recording of my lawyer stating all the points of negligence. So, for an example, points of negligence, the Truro Police. So, IC of the search that day was Sergeant Hunka, which is my new lead investigator now. So, he was first on scene. So, he should have been in control of the search and everything. He should have been IC of the search. So, they broke protocol when they gave it to the deputy chief. The deputy chief, Rob, took over everything. That was breaking protocol. Another example for breaking protocol would be, oh, there's so much. I can't even remember all the wording for it. There was a lot that was done wrong, and we had proof of it, but we still lost. And, it gets more bizarre because after the hearing, I reached out to another lawyer in Amherst, and, um, what's his name? Jim. Jim something. I can't remember his name, but he was one of the best lawyers for that type of thing in Atlantic Canada, I'm pretty sure. So when they came out with the decision, he looked through it right quick, and he told me I have screenshots of the email. There was what do they call it? Legal error all through the hearing. So the hearing wasn't even done proper because certain witnesses weren't brought in when they were supposed to be. Like when we talked about the cadaver dog and the dog handler, they weren't there. They should have been. The grandmother, Dylan's grandmother, was talked about, but she wasn't there. She should have been examples on legal error. You know, it's and there's nothing I can do about it now. So that was just a big shit show. A lot of people heard the recording. I released it one day and let people listen to the recording of my lawyer just to show people that I'm not crazy, that there was a lot of broken protocols and they covered it all up. And then after the hearing, there was a little boy in Germany that looked a little bit like Dylan. So that was a big rush. So so I got the cops really wouldn't do anything at that point. So I had called Please Bring Me Home, which is that organization. They can do their own DNA testing. So instead of they take out the third party, they can go in and do their own thing, and it helps families like us. So they took a mouth swab of my mouth and they sent it to their lab, and then from their lab to I think Pennsylvania or a data bank of some sort out in the States. And I wasn't the father. I have the blood work back. I wasn't the father. And then it wasn't long after that, I called the Truro police because I was upset with the hit in the water that they lied about. It drove me crazy because I was there, so I have to live with that, dream about it, wonder why they didn't search. And I went a little crazy about it, and then they actually put a no contact order on me with the Truro police, so I couldn't contact them no more. And and then it wasn't long after that the Truro police got a hold of me for another incident in Germany. The Truro police needed my blood work this time for Germany. So I actually went into the Truro police station and they pricked my finger and they took my blood and they sent it to Germany. They found something, clothing or something, and I haven't really gotten any answers for that yet either, other than it made it to their data bank. If it is Dylan, then it would be, you'd get a ding and the cops would be notified and then they would notify us. And so basically, it's just a big wondering game, right? So
So
it
just to
never ends.
reiterate, I just want to make sure I have this correct. So there was a child in Germany who looked similar to Dylan. You got
Correct.
or you notified these people who did a DNA test on you. Turns out,
The mouth swab, yes.
yeah. So it turns out there's no relation. And then the Truro police were like, hey, we want to do a DNA test as well.
No, it was for a different thing. So the first thing was a child that looked like Dylan. He was found probably 4 years ago, around the same time Dylan went missing, but he's never been claimed. And he looked like Dylan, the the model of what the child would look like. So I jumped all over it. The second time, I don't really know exactly what happened. The Truro police called and said, "We want your blood work for Germany. Can you come down?" And they took mine and they took his mother's. And very little to know. Like, they didn't really tell us a whole lot. So I'm going to assume nothing's down there, but I still haven't been told nothing's down there. So all I know is my blood work is at a data bank for
What?
Germany.
Why would the Truro police say we need blood for Germany when Germany already has it?
Germany requested it from the Truro police.
Oh, okay. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. So that's what happened there. What else has happened? I mean, I there's a lot of there was a lot of tips that were coming in. It kind of you get them and then you don't. So it's up and down. There's never really been any answers on the tips that have come in last year or I don't think there's been many this year. I had a few fake ransoms
Yeah,
um, 5 months ago or so, or maybe a little while back. They're hard to deal with.
they are. And you know what,
Um,
Jason, I try to tell people this when they're missing loved one, you know, vanishes. I try to tell them to be really mindful of scammers who will
okay.
come out and say, "Listen, I have your daughter or your son. If you pay me $5,000, you'll get them back." Well, they don't have your kid. They're just trying
Yeah,
to
well,
get money
exactly.
from you. And it's
Yep.
appalling to me that people are out there preying on families who have missing loved ones. It's really appalling, but you have to be very mindful of that. And the other thing that I always tell people, I can't stress this enough. If there's the one thing I must say, and I have to educate people about this, is if you're going to start a social media group on Facebook or X, wherever, TikTok, just know there are going to be trolls and there are going to be salacious rumors, and
Yeah.
every single post needs to be approved by you. you know? So never have a public Facebook group where people can just post randomly. Make sure all those posts
Yeah.
are approved by yourself, just so you can weed out those people, because it will ruin, absolutely ruin a missing persons case. And I've seen it time and time again.
Yep. There's like it never ends. Like I don't even have I have a group, but I don't use it much no more because of the cyberbullying. They've made their own groups and they slander me. It's there was a night where I had a nervous breakdown and I was crying and bawling and I said, you know what? I've been told I killed my son so many times that, fuck it, I killed my son. I had that nervous breakdown and somebody had recorded it. I don't know if I had a nervous breakdown. I went to the hospital. I think my brother had called the cops. But anyway, I didn't hurt my son. Just you're told it so much, you're bullied so much that you're like, fuck it, I killed my son. You get to that point where a lot of people won't understand it. You see it in movies sometimes, where someone will break and say they killed them or killed this person, but they really didn't. And then that made it to the police, and then I had to do a lie detector test, which
Ugh.
was crazy because I wasn't there when my son went missing. I was on the phone with victim services for 2 hours, so it was impossible for me to be around my son. But I think it was just a way for the cops to be like, oh, now we can just give you a lie detector test. But I did do a lie detector test, and I don't trust them whatsoever. So they were
So,
lucky I did one
because of all the cyberbullying, people were pointing fingers at you, saying that you killed your son,
every
and
day.
it got to the point where you almost were like, you had that mental breakdown and said,
And I had to go, the cops took me to the hospital.
I
Yeah.
killed my son, and someone took it the wrong way. Is that kind of what happened? And it was on a recording,
My brother had called the cops, and I think the cops were on the phone when I was having that breakdown.
and so they
I
heard
think
it.
that's how it happened. Yeah. And then they slandered my girlfriend for it. They were like, "Oh, you confessed to your girlfriend and all this stuff," but that's not even what happened. So then they went with that and started slandering, "Oh, I killed my son" and all this stuff, and it didn't help me out whatsoever. But I'm entitled to a breakdown. I'm entitled to feelings. When you're pushed to the edge with all this cyberbullying and I don't know, violent. I don't know. I can't even explain this. It's disgusting, but I'm glad I did the lie detector test. I passed. Everything was good. Like I've never lied about anything. It's just sad that they just keep on going. Even if I pass, they still believe I did something. And I've never told anyone the results of my lie detector test until today because I didn't feel the need that they needed to know. Then I passed, like I've got nothing to hide. I had a nervous breakdown. So just it goes on, right? Um, and they're so quick to give me lie detector tests. I still wish that they would give the rest of the family lie detector tests.
Yeah, so where do we
Don't
stand there? I know that Ashley is mom, and then there's the
I don't
grandmother.
I don't talk to Ashley. I haven't talked to her in a long time, so I don't know what's been going on with that. But I'd rather not talk to her.
So you don't know if
And that's
she's
my
had a
only.
lie detector test or
If she did, I would know, but
Mhm.
she hasn't.
And grandmother?
I She had one. It was inconclusive.
Grandmother had
But
an inconclusive one. Okay.
yep, and I've learned. So I made the mistake by thinking inconclusive is um you're lying or you did something wrong.
Mm-mm.
And I even got mad at my grandmother. I lost my mind over it. But inconclusive means that their lie detector test just didn't work. It didn't read you proper. It means that you didn't lie. Doesn't mean you lied. It doesn't mean anything. So I learned that doing my own lie detector test with RC&P in Bobble Hill. So that opened my eyes to what inconclusive means. And a lot of people think inconclusive, well, there's something wrong there. Well, not really. It just means that the test didn't work, and that's one reason why it's not submissible in court. Lie
Right.
detector tests,
And I
they're
was
not
just going
very
to touch on
reliable.
that because here's the problem with lie detector tests. If a person has anxiety, panic disorder, mental illness, maybe they're under,
Parents remorse,
pardon?
parents remorse, that's a good one.
Sure. And with
Like
parents
I
remorse,
like I like an example. My son went missing. I could blame myself for that,
sure,
even though I didn't do
sure,
anything. I still feel like I shouldn't have had him at the grandmother's, or you know what I mean. So that's what that
absolutely.
means.
There's
Parents
guilt.
remorse.
Yeah, and with that guilt, there's that guilt and that shame and this whole constellation of, you know, symptoms like anxiety and depression. Yes, that can alter a lie detector test. So anybody
Oh yeah,
listening to this, if you get a positive lie detector test, you may have been on anxiety meds. You may have been on, even
like me.
antidepressants. You could have been on illicit
Yep.
drugs. And like you say, parents' remorse, having that guilt or thinking that it's your fault somehow, even though you didn't do it. And people can actually pass a lie detector test, have it come back negative, and they're actually guilty. And I'll give you an example. People who are psychopaths or sociopaths, very, very easy for them to pass these lie detector tests because there are no feelings there. They're very detached. So I hate lie detector tests. I despise them. They're not admissible in court. I don't know why police would ever ask anybody to use them. I would never take
I
one.
have an answer for that. I do have an answer for that. So they will get you to do a polygraph test to basically get an idea on the person. So if you fail or pass, it it just gives them an idea on you know what I mean? Like it just gives them something to work with.
I do, but I
And that's
think
all.
I do, and I see where you're going, but I think that's where interrogation skills need to come into play, and that's where having the expertise and being able to read body language needs to come into play. Not relying on a lie detector test. For me personally, I don't like them.
Exactly. Me neither. Like an example, doing one myself, you have to think about all these questions they tell you. So when you're being asked the question, at the same time, you have to be thinking about that question in your mind. So basically, they ask you to lie, and they ask you a question, and you have to be thinking to yourself the lie, and then when you're telling the truth, vice versa. So to me, why would you have to think hard on all these questions and do all these certain little things when it's a lie detector test? You shouldn't have to think about all these things in your mind. You should just be asked, but it's not even like that. It's nothing like I expected.
Yeah.
Like, I, like, how did it work with mine? So they would get me to think of a lie, and they would ask me a question that I would know was true, but I would have to lie about it. Well, to me, that didn't make any sense, but that's how it goes. And then with the truthful ones, you have to really think in your mind that I'm being honest. I'm being honest. I'm telling the truth, or it will fail, or be inconclusive. So to me, none of that made sense. Like, you should be able to just wire someone up and asking them the questions, not have to think about, like, prepped and have to think about all these questions. And you know, I was very disappointed in the whole thing. I don't like lie detector tests. After doing it, it's no.
So, who is working on your son's case now?
So, the first person on scene, Sergeant Rob Honka, um, which I mentioned at the beginning. He was IC of the search, but then got pushed away. The deputy chief took over. He's the lead investigator now, and he's actually, we went to school with him. And he's one that I can trust to a point. Um, I do think he's doing the best he can now. Like, the hit in the water, they're investigating that right now. He's he the last email I got, he had said that he had to go talk to the first lead investigator, which was Corporal Emery, and find out exactly what he did to search that spot for the hit in the water. And that was last week. I haven't got an update on if they're going to search it or bring in another team. All I know is he's investigating the officer that was supposed to deal with it and ask him why it wasn't dealt with, basically, to my understanding.
So, it's not Truro police that are investigating any longer.
Oh yeah, it's Truro Police.
Okay.
So Sergeant Honka is the Truro Police.
Okay.
He's the sergeant. It's very much a open investigation. May 6th, they put out a post that, any information, any leads, any tips, please call the Truro Police. It's a very active and open investigation, so it's very active still.
Good. And that was going to be my next question. Is this a cold case? But you just answered that.
Mm.
So, I know in the
Mm.
very beginning there were tons of searches going on between you and Ashley and a whole constellation of people. Is that still happening?
So within a year, everybody stopped searching except for me, Reg Hare, and Dennis Hare. Reg and Dennis, Reg being 65 years old, Dennis being 61 at the time, I do believe. They came out on every search I'd made. I didn't stop searching. I searched high and low. I searched that water right up till around the Christmas that just passed. Um, I had to stop and, you know, take a little break for my own mental health because I was so obsessed with finding them that it ate up my whole life. I didn't work. I didn't want to work. If it wasn't, there was a point where if you didn't search for Dylan, get the fuck out of my life. So with that attitude, I lost all my friends, all my family. Just recently, so when his hearing came up with the police complaint commissioner, my lawyer wanted my parents to come in, or my mom and my sister, and they didn't want to. So it made me mad. And I had a big fight with them and all this stuff. And that was the last time I spoke to them. And right now, my mom has dementia and, she's at a home right now, like within like a few years. And She probably doesn't even know who I am now, so I have to live with fighting with them and treating them like that, and knowing that she won't remember me now. And my dad just had another stroke, and he can't walk no more. He's blind in one eye and had his toes chopped off, and he's doing really bad too. And I reached out to him last week, my first time in over a year, and it was really hard for me because you don't support my son and get out of my life. So that was my attitude. But then I realized that not everybody copes the same way. So of course my family was hurt, but sometimes people can't do certain things. And it took me a while to understand that. So when I understood it and realized it, it's already kind of too late. My mom's already lost her mind, and my dad's really sick, and he's the one that told me that she probably won't remember me and stuff like that. I just found out all this stuff in the last few weeks, so that's been a big toll on my mental health too, right? Like um the way I treated them because I didn't understand how people were supposed to act. So, if it wasn't my way, it was no way.
Right.
Um,
Y- y-
other family members, they're scared to support Dylan because of the ongoing cyberbullying.
So, Jason,
So,
you had said that you, if you don't support my son, then get out of my life. And it sounds like,
yeah.
excuse me, it sounds like there was a lot of anger coming from you. Is that fair to say? So,
Oh, a
I
lot of
really want
anger.
to touch on this, and I think it's really important. Um,
Okay.
Having a background in psychology, I want to
Okay.
stress this. Anger is oftentimes a reaction to a distraction from like inner suffering, such as like sadness, feeling shame, anxiety, feeling inadequate, isolation. And that anger can be both um, sort of like an outgrowth and a meaningful distraction from like intense pain or underlying depression. Behind anger is either fear, sadness, depression, loss, grief. It's important for people to know that when you see an angry person, there's something else behind it. And it's important to recognize that. And we have a parent, yourself, who lost a child in the most tragic of ways. And then we have a parent, yourself, who is dealing with this cyberbullying and dealing with a police department that didn't investigate properly. Are you angry? You're damn right you're angry. And like I said,
Still today.
you have every right to be angry, but people need to recognize why you're angry and the pain that is behind that anger. So I I feel you give yourself a little bit of grace and self-love and be kind to yourself because um, I think you're doing a good job. You had mentioned to me you have not really spoken about this case in a year, and so for you to come here and talk to me is a big step, and it sounds to me
It
like
is.
you made a
It's
lot of headway.
I've made a lot of headway. I've gotten Dylan on W5 News. I've got him on Nancy Grace. We're doing a documentary movie that's still ongoing. I just had a message today from the director, and they actually flew out last month and met with me, and we had lunch, and they literally flew out just to have lunch and talk. And they're going to start amping it up in the next month or so. finish filming and try to put it all together. I think that the movie's, one of my last hopes for them, to really spread awareness. Like I'm known around, it seems like the world, right across the UK and beyond, um, because of everything I've done. My search videos, I did that for 3 years straight. Every time I went on the search, I made a search video, put Dylan's face on it, and then where we searched, videotape people searching and stuff, and that got my YouTube up to almost 3,000 subscribers. And then I started using TikTok, and I went up to 18,000 followers on that. And, I was, I don't think I really stopped. It was every day, every day, every day, every day. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of what I've done,
Absolutely, and you should
in that
be.
aspect.
To have that many followers on YouTube and that many followers on TikTok means that Dylan's story is being told to a wider audience and it's reaching more people.
Yeah.
And so you have found
I
another way to do that, and I commend you on that.
and like for an example on wonderful things I did birthday wishes around the world last year for Dylan, April 16th, and I asked everybody to send a video wishing him a happy birthday and a safe return home, and I got videos from every province in the UK, pretty well all over the world. Like there was hundreds of people on my video. It's on my YouTube still today, and then I made the Moncton News in New Brunswick, and even the journalists did a video for me, and it really warmed my heart knowing that places like England and all these foreign places that, you know, you wouldn't even think they would know about Dylan, but they do.
Mhm.
Um, to fill it like everywhere. Like I can't even think of all the places in the UK, but I think every one of them but Germany. Every place in the UK. So I was pretty proud of that. And just I I haven't really stopped, and then I had to stop. And then the cyberbullying was getting to me and getting to my girlfriend, and they were starting to slander her and really, really making making noise because my girlfriend went through a similar situation as me, and I'm not going to get into it, but she had a loved one go missing, so that's how we connected. It's tough stuff,
Right.
and then when we got together, it just the cyberbullying went nuts again. They focused on destroying her, trying to push her away from me, and um, it's almost like I'm not allowed to have friends or anyone in my life where these people will destroy me and push them away. So,
Oftentimes, um, we connect with people who have sort of the same common ground as we do. And
yeah, it's good to have support when it comes to the missing.
it is,
It's good to have support from someone else that dealt with a similar thing with the cyberbullying and
right.
stuff like that, right?
And it's no surprise that you would meet someone who probably reached out to you and there's this bond that's created and then this relationship starts. There's nothing uh, suspicious about that, in my opinion, whatsoever. It's you two found each other because you have this common,
Mhm.
ground. And
We grew a bond like I've never had with anybody in my life.
sure,
She's the love of my life.
sure.
I just, with that comes, well, just it's just amazing to meet somebody that gets you and can understand you and be there for you, and you know this is special.
So, what's going on going forward? I thought I had read something about you or someone in the family trying to get a bill passed for an uh, Eiler alert? Or is it Eiler?
Amber Alert.
Oh, okay.
So, so when Dylan went missing, they put it a non-intrusive alert, and that doesn't go on all cell phones and TVs and stuff. It's just on like social media pages. And we wanted to change that because Dylan's 3 and he's vulnerable. He doesn't, at that age, they don't understand danger and all that stuff. So I believe that, the Amber Alert would have been best used for Dylan, and then that would have been out right away, and he could have been found. I believe he could have been found if they had have just sent out that alert and things moved faster, where it wasn't the case. For an example, over 3 hours for search and rescue. For a missing child, the non-intrusive alert for a missing child was 2 hours and 41 minutes. And then the cops tried to blame EMO for that. And it wasn't EMO's fault. It's up to the Truro police, which Avery Haynes proved on W5 News. It's, I deeply believe he could have been found. And if things were just done proper. And then we go to, well, sometimes they're not equipped to deal with something like that because they've never done it before, where Dylan's the youngest child to go missing in Nova Scotia. Well, to me, if a cop or the team of cops don't know what they're doing, call someone that does. So to me, there's still no excuse on how they handled it. If they didn't know how to handle it, call someone that does. And you got to remember when my son went missing, the mass shooting just happened in my neighborhood.
I remember you
Um,
speaking
that
about that in our podcast back in
a guy,
2020. Yeah.
yeah. So when the guy was dressed up as a cop killing everybody, which I'm so sorry for the family every day, when the anniversary comes, that's all I think about. I knew some of the people, I was, the teacher that was murdered, that day, it was my teacher. So, and stuff like that, it affected everybody. But then when my son went missing, you started noticing on the news that the Truro police were sending threatening emails to the Bible Hill RCMP. They weren't getting along. So the Bobble Hill RCMP is next door to the Truro Police, so it's just across the bridge. And for years, the Truro Police has been trying to take over all of that, trying to get the RCMP out because Truro Police are small town police. And I believe when Dylan went missing, the RCMP and the Truro Police weren't getting along, obviously, and they should have been. They should have worked as a team. The river. So the RCMP got one side of the river, the Truro Police got the other side, basically. Why couldn't they just have come together and just, and then on W5 News, they said their canine unit dog searched for Dylan. He came in 30 minutes. At the hearing I went to, in fact, it took over 2 hours because he was off duty. So it's like it even took 2 hours for a canine dog to search for my son that day. So everything just took so long. And what I've learned from retired cops that cop dogs aren't meant for searching for children. They're meant for if somebody runs off breaking the law, if they can get a track within 30 minutes, the dog will chase them down or you know what I mean? But after 30 minutes or longer, they're no use, especially for a missing child. So where the dog was already 2 hours or 2.5 hours late, the dog wasn't going to pick up anything. They go by skin particles. And so then I argued with the cops on that. And I said, they're two different dogs. Why didn't you have a search and rescue dog there? And they tried to tell me it was the same thing, that a search and rescue dog is the same thing as a cop dog. And in fact, it's far and in between the same. It's very much different. And it's just sad that
Yeah, you're right. So, I mean, they have
cop,
canine dogs for narcotics. They have canine dogs to search for weapons, canine dogs to search for bombs. They have canine dogs to search for people if they're tracking a suspect, and they have canine dogs who actually search, and I hate to say this, but who search for bodies that are no longer alive. So there's different, and there are some dogs that can do two things. There are canine dogs who can
Yep,
actually not only search for narcotics, but they're also able to search for weapons. So they're very specified dogs. So it's really important to have the correct canine when we're searching for a person or the potential body of someone who's no longer alive.
exactly. You know, you can have dogs that can do search and rescue, and at the same time, they can look for human bodies. And cadaver dogs, you know, it doesn't have to be like it could be the body could be, you know, 40 years old, or the remains could be 40 years old, buried 30, 40 feet underground, and these dogs can still find them, you know.
Hmm.
So that's where I had the big issue with the hit in the water and why they neglected it.
So you speak of this pit
And
in the
it's,
water. Explain to me what that is.
I have a video of it. So we were in Salmon River. We were just past Park Street Bridge in Truro that separates Truro to Bobble Hill. And there was a hit in the water, so the dog started digging, digging, and digging, and digging, like crazy digging. And so I said to the guy, I was like, my dog used to do that, looking for rocks. And he's like, my dog doesn't do that. It's either a human body or a bottle of piss. So they called the dog back, gave him a treat or whatever they do, and then they let him go to see if he'd go back to the same spot. And he did. And he was obsessed with it. I'll send you the video if you want. It's
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely,
That would be great.
it's a tough one to watch. Tough one to watch. And so what the cops didn't realize is I took an hour's worth of video that day. So I had the whole video of the hit in the water, the whole search. And the only video I presented at the hearing was just the hit in the water. So it didn't really show too many members stuff. So that's where I screwed up because I didn't think I needed all of it. And partly my lawyer's fault too. And where my lawyer, Allison Harris, was new to doing a police hearing, it was her first one ever, but that was our only option because we're broke. So she did the best she could with the knowledge she had for being new at it. But turns out that there was a lot of error in law, and there's just apparently nothing you can do about that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really important, and I heard you say a few sentences back, that's where I screwed up. And I don't think you've ever screwed up, Jason. I think, again, just give yourself some love and some kindness and some grace, and don't be so hard on yourself because too many people around you have been hard enough on you. And I know you're dealing with a lot.
Yeah.
And so I know oftentimes it's easy to negative self talk. Um, I'm just as guilty, but I don't think you ever screwed up at any point in time. If anything, I feel like you've been very proactive. And I've seen your videos, I've seen your TikTok. Um, I spoke to you years ago. So, and I watched you out there searching for your son endlessly. So, you've done a lot.
I really have. I done so much, and it just almost feels like I've gotten nowhere. It's a never-ending cycle. Like people say, grieving. Well, you know, you can't grieve with a missing child. it's just it's circles and circles and circles and circles and circles. Like it's the toughest road I've ever been down, and it just eats you up. And and then you have to learn to cope, and you have to. Can you
I
still
can,
hear me?
yeah.
Okay. And you have to learn to get a job, and then be able to deal with working, and at the same time deal with stuff that happens with your son's case. So, an example is I was working at Atlantic Windows, and I was doing all right there, and then Germany went in my blood. It broke me. I couldn't go to work no more. It's always a struggle, right? And I'm in counseling now. It took me years and years to go to counseling, and with the unknown, if you look it up, counseling may never work because it's just one of them things.
Let me say,
9 times out of 10.
and you're right. I really think it's important for people to understand this. What you've been through, what um, mom has been through, is a very traumatic experience. And I think we could, and we're going to compound that with cyberbullying, harassment, which is an arrestable offense in some areas, at least in the United States. I don't know about Canada, but I will tell you, I would not be surprised if someone gave you a diagnosis, post-traumatic stress syndrome or disorder. Um, you've been through a lot. For a parent to go out and search in water and fields looking for their child and anticipating finding their child not alive. You have been through a lot. And um, again, I'm not surprised that, you didn't you lost the job and lost relationships because that's what PTS does to people. And I'm speaking,
lost, lost everybody. I lost every one of my family members except for my brother. I've lost so much
sure.
through this, and I don't, the cyberbullying, the people that are doing this to me, they don't realize the damage they've done to me. Like it fucking destroys lives. It's just like today, right? It never ends. Like they don't realize the damage they're doing to me, to an innocent person that just wants to find his baby. It's people don't realize the stress that some of us go through on top of this. I hope this video will, kind of show people like stop what you're doing. If you're harassing me or my family, like just stop. It's all about Dylan. Like Dylan has gotten lost through the cyberbullying long ago. Like it's disgusting,
And that's why I tell
and people don't realize.
That's why I tell families, if you're gonna put it on social media, make sure that you approve every single post that comes through to weed out those people who are trying to be armchair detectives. There are people who do podcasts like I do who try to make things salacious to get clicks and likes and big subscribers. I don't do that. Um, I find it appalling and disgusting. The only thing I'm going to share is the person I'm interviewing and the facts. And then that's it. That's what we're sharing. There's, it's, I don't even monetize. Um, I am sorry that you've gone through that. One thing I will just tell you is if there's any possible way you could stay off social media, do so. Just for your own sanity. And
I
the
had
other
to
thing too
because
is you can try through the court system. I don't know how it is in Canada, but you can try to get these Facebook groups taken down and removed. I know I've seen
So
it done in the US.
we did it. We were the second people in Canada to use the cyberbullying legislation of Nova Scotia, which I think it's all of Canada now. Reenacted by Rehtaeh Parsons, I believe her name is. She was a young girl that was cyberbullied and she committed suicide, and that's what brought up the legislation. And we're the second people to use it. The problem is they turn around and make fake accounts. Then there's nothing they can do. So that's what they did. They turned around and made fake accounts, and there's a group of me right now, and it's the worst stuff you could ever imagine. Like there's another like some of these people are like absolutely obsessed with me and my son. Like it's obsessive. Like it's been 4 years. Like go live your own life. Like why do you continue to harass everybody in my life? Still today, 4 years, and it's the same people, and the cops won't do anything.
Well, those people probably don't have
It's
a lot going on in their lives if they're constantly focusing on your life.
constantly.
They probably don't have a lot going on. They probably have a lot of insecurities in their life. It's none of their business. And see,
The
that's why I hate
the
social
problem with
media is
that is
because you get these armchair detectives who go on and then they find one little piece of information and they're not detectives. They don't have a criminal justice background. Um, and you know what? They end up tainting a case because if your son was truly kidnapped, well, the Truro police already screwed up, right? So now you have these people on Facebook or
exactly.
wherever that are just adding to it. And I am sorry you're going through.
You know, they taint my name, and I was on Facebook just the other day, and they had a post of me on one of the biggest groups in New Brunswick, and they gain supporters. So now I have more people that think I used my child for money, or I killed my son, or just it doesn't stop, right? So then that's more people looking at me like I'm this crazy psychopath that killed my son, because it's like a cult. They're really good at gaining strangers' support and making them follow what I don't even know how to explain it. It's
Why do you
disgusting.
think people are so focused
Or
on you?
I don't know. It's this I believe it's the same people, but they're gaining support. They're gaining believers like a cult. Or an example, I'll have a friend that searches with me, and then we'll get into a tiff and we're no longer friends. Then all of a sudden I'm a child killer, and they'll go on social media. Oh, I used to search with them, and they'll make up stuff. I've learned that with a lot of people. A lot of people that get mad at me, they'll use my son against me a lot of the time. A guy got mad at me a few months ago, and in front of Needs, and it was busy. They called me a baby killer. Just you don't have to like me. We don't have to get along. Relationships don't always last, but to say I'm a child killer is it's absolutely the lowest you can go. Like I should be able to lose a friend and not have them come back saying I'm a child killer, or I done this or I done that.
Let me ask you something,
It's
if you don't
bizarre.
mind, and it's a probably hard question. Have the police cleared your name or have the police accused you of being a suspect?
No, they've never. So like I said, when my son went missing, they never questioned me ever. They wanted my thoughts on the grandmother and his mother and other family members, because I'll state it again. I was at my mom's at the time with no contact order. I was talking to victim services counselor for 2 hours as my son was going missing. The cops looked into that. That's why they didn't question me. It's impossible for me to be on a landline talking on the phone and then all of a sudden take my son at the same time. It's impossible. So no, I've never been accused of anything, and yet they're obsessed with me.
And that's all that matters. Police have.
It got so bad, like my own, like for an example, my brother and his family, they had to move away from Truro because people were calling him a kid killer and actually taking pictures of his kids inside his house and sending it to them and calling social services on them and just making their life really bad to the point where they couldn't handle it no more. They had to move. And then when they moved, it followed them. And then, they will not share anything, Dylan, because they're scared to death of it. And we don't deserve it. I had a supporter that I don't even know, and she had gotten a hold of me a month ago, and said that I stuck up for you, and they called social services on me, and that's a big deal. So then they come out and they investigate. It's a very, nobody wants to go through that, so people push away. Like, it's sick, and 4 years of the same stuff. Like, I tell the cops, like, this is obsessive, dangerous stuff they're doing. And then when I reach my limit or my glass gets full and I freak out, I'm the first one they charge. Fuck my issues or what's actually happening in the background. I'm just the bad guy. I'm always the bad guy. Well, what about the people that are driving me nuts to the point where I'm going nuts? You know what I mean? So when is there actually help for someone like me? The cops never do anything. They don't deal with social media. It's a civil lawsuit. So they can threaten me, target me, ruin my entire life, but there's nothing you can do about it. Good job. They've told that to my brother, they've told that to me, they've told that to my parents, they've told that to everybody that has called them asking for help with the cyberbullying. It only didn't hit me. It's me now or anything I touch, but it was my entire family. So an example, if I were to go on there today and post a picture of, let's say, a new friend, I can tell you they wouldn't be friends with me very much longer because they would figure out who it is and they would destroy them. And examples on that is I had a friend and they called every one of their family members through Messenger and said that I'm a kid killer and that they should be careful on who they're hanging out with. This and that, and they push them away because it started to affect their life. And they had social services just still today. So now I'm forced to stop my search for my son. So I can't do social media stuff. I think it's wrong in every way possible. And I hope this video goes far because, oh my God, like I am so sick and tired of all this fake rumors and defamation and slander and everything. They can threaten me, but I get mad and threaten them or threaten someone else, charged.
When you say charged, have you been charged?
I've been, yes, for uttering threats. I've been charged for losing my mind a few times because they continue to let it happen. So my mental health gets a little
Sure.
unstable sometimes because, as you said, you were a psychologist or a background
Background
in
in psychology and
that
criminal
field.
justice.
You can only understand that you can only be pushed so much before you kind of go a little loopy, and I remember doing a search and people were going to join me and I'd drive over an hour and a half from Moncton to Truro to do a search, and the cops would be waiting for me saying I'm harassing this girl over here, and they would almost charge me and I'd have to show them all this information or get my lawyer to call them. Like, I'm talking like some nasty stuff. Like, I won't even tell you half the stuff because it's too much, but it still continues. Like, I've had ones that called the cops on a fake domestic violence and they came and investigated. And I don't think people realize how much social media can really destroy a person. They can go after your job, they can go after your family, they can go after your kids. I remember them, like, it just never ends. I remember them going after people's jobs and stuff, getting pushed away from. That's enough for anyone to push away from. And it's not fair for Dylan. Like the main focus should be Dylan, not me. Like I've said 1,000 times, who gives a shit about me? It's about the baby that went missing.
Jason,
So
I'm going to
doing
tell you a
all this,
story. So this is happening in the United States on the East Coast. I'm not going to name the state because a lot of people know, and I don't want to get involved with this case, but I'm going to tell you something. There was a young boy who was autistic who went missing, and he just kind of disappeared in the
yeah,
middle of the night. Well, the stepfather and the mother of this child have been accused of killing this child. And then the biological father, everybody was on his side for a long time, and then the social media armchair detectives flipped it and then went after the biological father. These parents and step parents have been harassed so horrifically that they have had to move from their house to a different city, and they have had
I
lost
did the
their
same thing.
jobs. I have seen this over and over and over again, and again, it's appalling and it's disgusting, and shame on people who continue to do that.
Yeah. I'm the same person. I had to move out of Nova Scotia. I couldn't deal with it no more. But unfortunately, still follows me. So getting off social media was the best answer. But then when I'm off social media, it still happens in the background. So even though I'm not on there, it's still happening today.
You
They're
haven't
still doing it.
divulged where you're living now, have you? Okay, good. And
No,
I
and I
won't
won't.
either. I
No.
think it's important that you have your privacy. Um, so going forward, what are the plans for the future? Do you have plans to find Dylan?
Um, I always have plans to find Dylan. So, like I said, we're working on the movie. I want to continue searching. Sometimes when you're forced to move out of province, it really puts a damper on things. So now to search, it's further away, further and further away. So I've I have plans. I just don't know how to go through with them now because
Mhm.
I'm so far away. Like sometimes I get confused because people tell me I need to stop and I need to move on. And I've had family members and friends say that, but they don't understand because they don't have a missing child. They don't have their baby missing. So to put it behind you is, I think that would hurt me more than anything. But I don't have a degree in psychology or anything, so um, like I'm lost at this point. I don't know what to do anymore.
Well, you can have a degree in psychology and still be
I don't.
lost, so it doesn't mean that much.
Yeah, so I don't. Um, my plans is to continue my search, but I don't know what else to do at this point because I think I've exhausted every possible avenue. I don't know of any more resources I can go to. Um, every poster I put up, they get ripped down anyway. So I'm at the point where you're at a loss. You don't know what to
Who's
do.
ripping the posters down?
Well, kids, people
Oh,
from school, they just see it, kids, or they fade away, or the town says you can't put posters on telephone poles, so they'll take them down, or just many reasons. Um, I try to support them. I try to do May 6th event for them, and it's just, yeah, I can't do anything with the cyberbullying. I can't do anything. I mean, I did my own things secretly, but how do you spread awareness if you can't have people join? You
absolutely.
know what I mean? So
Well, have other people
I
spread
think
awareness.
people, yeah, but people want to be part of it too, and And they can't because I canceled it. I couldn't do it because of all these people. We were gonna have a barbecue. We were gonna float balloons. We were bottle launch, out bottle, bottle. All these things we were gonna do, but then I had to cancel because it just these people, and that's a lot of people, or it feels like a lot of people. I did a 50-50 draw, and then before you knew it, and I was going to give the money to search and rescue under Dylan's name, and then before you knew it, somebody had called the cops on me. And then apparently you need permission for that stuff. I didn't know that. I thought you could legally do a 50-50 draw and then give money to whoever you want. You know, search and rescue, they're a non-profit organization, and I know Truro, Nova Scotia, they're broke. Um, Long story with that, they don't have proper funding. The government just doesn't fund them. So I thought that was a good idea. That went to shit. So then eventually it just gets so frustrating. And it's like, well, what the fuck's the point? So I canceled everything. Everything's a headache. Not for everybody. I imagine there's people out there with missing children that don't have what's happening to me, but happening. So I'm at the point where I don't know what to do anymore. Tell these people go away and I can, know, peacefully spread awareness. So I don't do podcasts or anything no more. I'm sure once they see this, they're just gonna run with something. I'm sure. And then that hurts me and my son,
Right.
people around me.
Well, I mean, I
But
think what I'll do
the
is
main focus,
I'll definitely throw it out as a podcast. People can't really comment on podcasts so much as they can YouTube. And I can throw this on YouTube, but I can also turn comments off.
you can do whatever you want. I want this to go out because I think it can help people maybe spin
Yeah.
them around too, right?
Um,
Be like, because people are led with misinformation. So when they see a grieving father crying his eyes out, maybe that'll be like, oh shit, maybe we're actually hurting this person too much. I don't think they realize that 18% of cyberbullying victims commit suicide. So would it for those that cyberbully me, would and then I kill myself? How would you feel? How would you feel after that? You'd feel pretty crappy because I've been pushed almost to the point where I've had my thoughts. I've come past that, but it's a true fact. 18% of all cyberbullying victims commit suicide. So you're not cyberbullying me, but you go after one of my friends or someone that has nothing to do with Dylan. They just support me, and then you harass them. How much can they take? So, it's things that people need to think about. Like, it's a dangerous game they're
so
playing.
you've dealt with, God, you're a completely different person that I met, oh God, almost 4 years ago. You have dealt with
I
anxiety and
don't,
depression, cyberbullying, you've lost a job, but then having to deal with these thoughts, whether it's passive suicidal ideations or active suicidal ideations because of the cyberbullying, that breaks my heart because 4 years ago you weren't that person that I interviewed. And to see that now is painful.
I'm pretty broken.
And I'm so sorry you've been through that.
And
No.
no one deserves it. I mean, there was one time where, you know, I think what I've done for my son, like I've had people with missing people get mad at other people with missing people for how hard I fought because apparently there's not a lot of me out there. They usually give up within the first year. They don't give up, but they slow down. Then you have me that hasn't stopped in 3.5 years, nonstop, searching and fighting and every day on YouTube or TikTok or making these amazing videos or doing this and doing that. Like, and then all the followers around the world. I think I'm a pretty good father, and I think Like, if I killed my son, why would I be doing all this? Why would I
You
go
wouldn't.
above and beyond? Like, no one, no other family members looking for him. So I felt like it was up to me because everyone stopped. So that's what gave me the oomph I needed to keep on fighting. It actually almost put me in my grave because I didn't give myself a break. It it I got obsessed with it. I got obsessed with finding him. I got obsessed with fighting the cops to the point where I almost went to jail for just fighting for what I believe in. And it's just I'm fighting for what I believe. I believe that something's wrong, something's not right, same as day one. I feel like the grandmother wasn't completely honest. I believe my private investigator, 20, 35 years major crimes. There's pieces in the grandmother's story, the timeline, everything. Like he can accept the drowning theory if everything else lined up, but nothing lines up. So it's just I've done everything, and to be shit on all the time, it really takes a toll. I still have lots of supporters that support me, but then I ghost them all, and then I don't want them to think I'm ghosting them or unfriending them because I hate them. It's because I had to unfriend everybody, and I had to try to make my Facebook work for me, and that didn't work. So then I had to delete it or deactivate it. I really hope that supporters, know that I'm grateful for everything they've done, for the money they've donated or the drives they've given me. I appreciate everything with all my heart. Just I had to back off because I didn't realize who I could trust anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's important um, to understand that anybody who's suffered a trauma such as you have, or anybody that's out there dealing with PTSD, um, it is not uncommon. In fact, it's very common for people struggling with trauma to quote unquote ghost people. They are doing that because they need to pull back and almost in a sense recharge their battery. And
I have
so you have
CPTSD,
complex
chronic
PTSD.
CPTSD.
Okay. So you have
Yeah,
a lot of
like
major
it's
things going on.
how would you not? I was just fine. I had a job. My life was normal, and then he went missing. I never asked for that. Nobody did. And then to have my life torn apart afterwards, it definitely takes its toll.
Right.
So yeah, I think part of the CPTSD is what made me fight so long because I feel like it's still 2020. I've come a long way now, but it's still I still can't stop thinking about it. It's impossible. People say that I should move on. Well, not move on, but you know what I mean. And it's easier said than done. Unless you've been through it, you can't say anything. Because I can tell you, most people, if you watch people with missing people, usually their lives go to shit pretty fast. They lose their jobs, they lose everything most times. You see kids walking down the street, and you're like, is that Dylan? All that stuff's real. Like I walk down the street, and sometimes we'll see a child, and I'm like, could it be? But it's not.
And that's a trigger.
It's tough.
That's very triggering.
Children, yeah. Any child that's 3 years old.
Yeah.
Well, 7 now. So any child that's 7 years old, does that look like
Right.
Dylan? It's not all the time. Sometimes it's just some days are worse than others. Like I've hung out with children now. I can, I'm not like very active with them, but I can communicate with them and, play a little game with them, but it's short and sweet. Because then I probably, especially little boys, like,
Well, it's a reminder to
little boys, yeah, little boys between 3 and 7, I have a rough time with now. because Dylan went missing at 3 and
Sure.
now he's 7. So watching a 7-year-old and how much fun they're having or fishing and all that stuff, it affects me because now I'm like, I wish I had them moments where I could go fishing with my baby. I'd love to go do something with them, go fishing or teach them something. I would have been an amazing father. I am an amazing father. Father's Day is coming up, and you know, I it's gonna be a tough day.